Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of International Gamers.
Yay.
I had to do that just to piss off Steven, because he's a Canadian now, damn it.
Yeah, technically.
So, as you guys will recall, what was it, last week, the week before, whatever, we had our special E3 predictions video, or podcast, or whatever. And Ahmed and I we're basically going to do something a little bit different. So he's written some really good notes. He's got a really good structure. So I'm going to throw it over to him. But don't worry, we will cover our predictions. We'll most likely do it either towards the end or just as we go through. Because the reality is we both did absolutely awful.
Yeah, we sucked bad.
Yeah.
I would say you won by margin, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get to that. And... it's really funny. It was really, really, really funny. And I think, I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold this comment till after. So go ahead and take it away, and let's have some fun here.
Okay, sounds good. The general thought of what I feel that we're going to go through this podcast, I think we'll talk about like general thoughts of E3 first and the atmosphere and how things went last year compared to this year, and then we're gonna do as if we're doing with our reviews. We're gonna talk about the good stuff first, like top 5 on my end and top 5 on Jarrod's end, and then move on to the so-so stuff, and then the bad or the lowlights moment of E3 2017. So first off, like I said, general thoughts. I felt that the atmosphere was a bit more subdued compared to last year's, even with the big elephant in the room, which is the Xbox One X reveal. It seemed that all the reveals didn't have the impact or the pop with the surprises compared to last year's. I guess because there's not obviously we're into the Switch right now. There's no new console reviews per se, and there weren't any big super crazy surprises aside from a few. I don't know if you feel the same way, Jarrod.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I don't know what I was expecting, which is kind of the thing. I mean, as the years go on, we get older. I'm kind of wondering, like, have we started to lose touch with some of the expectations? Now, we'll get into all of this, but for like Microsoft, I didn't feel like the big bang, and like overall, I didn't feel that E3 this year was this phenomenal wow type of thing. Now, that being said, there was some really cool stuff announced. There was some stuff that sort of, I think, landed with like a thud, instead of it being like this big wow like reveal. But again, we'll get into each one of these things more specifically in just a bit. But I think also I personally was a little bit unrealistic in some regard. The company that I was the most pleased with, if we're looking at just conferences and highlights, showcases, reveals, was with Nintendo. I felt that they had I don't know if I want to say the strongest showing, but they had something that really appealed to me. Sony's was the one that, when it was over, and I had my notes, and I'd taken I put little asterisks next to games that I was like, they look pretty cool and this and that. I started to wonder, was I just crazy? Like, was I totally unrealistic with my expectations? And when I had looked over some of my notes and some of the predictions and stuff like that, I actually sort of said I think I was. And what I mean by this is, Sony now has several events throughout the year that they hold. There's the PlayStation Experience, there's E3, and there's usually either TGS or Gamescom, where they like to have a couple of other reveals. And so I was looking back at notes and some of the things I had said, and I was like, maybe I was kind of foolish in regards that, like, E3 for that particular company now, I don't know if E3 can really be that big, because if it is, then what do they show for the rest of the year?
Yeah,
but
you're absolutely right. I would say Microsoft arguably the only people who love like paying all their or throwing all their eggs in one basket when it comes to E3. Nintendo, Sony, as you've mentioned, they're sort of like widening their scope to other conferences or other showcases and whatnot.
Yeah, and this year it's so funny because in some regard, it was the year of games we already knew, and then in other
Yes.
and then what's ironic is that and then like the exact opposite was also true in the sense that so many of the reveals were like 2018. But what I found so interesting this year was that for so many of the games that were revealed for like 2018, I found them to be quite generic. And that's what I want to get into when we say like the bad,
Yes.
but I'll leave that for after.
Yep, absolutely right. Yeah, we'll keep the details for after, but I do agree with these sentiments in the sense that I know that in terms of PR, Sony sort of like publicly stated that we don't want to give exact dates because we don't want to disappoint people and start delaying stuff. I understand that, but at the same time, as you've mentioned, it's the year the E3 that of games that we already knew. Like they've been announced last year, and it doesn't seem that we didn't get enough progress or we were demanding too much. I don't know. Maybe I have to accept that fact. And the other thing is, I feel that from Sony and Nintendo mostly, and Nintendo has been following this formula for the past few years. Even Sony started mimicking them. They started widening their announcements throughout E3, not just focusing on the conference itself. Sony had a pre-show. They announced a couple of things. And they had live streams after the conference, which they focused on other third-party titles. So you don't get the same awe in the conference itself. You get surprised after. So I guess that affected things.
Yeah, and I think also a lot of this is that the industry has significantly changed. People tend to forget that the conferences, there's actually a word before conference, and that is press conference. People tend to forget that these conferences were actually designed for the press originally, way back, before the advent of the internet and all this live streaming and all of this. You went to E3's press conferences for just that. You wanted to know what was in the pipeline coming up, what were the latest sales figures, what were the projected sales figures. Now, more and more and more, these are no longer press conferences. They are now just straight up conferences, and they're almost fan events. Like that's one of the reasons why I'm really questioning the validity of E3 in and of itself. Like, why do we still need E3 anymore? Because the business deals that used to happen at E3 no longer are there. I mean, yes, some to a lesser degree, but it's not like it was even 10 years ago. Like, it is fundamentally changed. When is the last time any of the big guys came up on stage and were like, so, we sold 250,000 units in the last... Like, they don't do that anymore because they
do that. They do that now before the press conference itself.
That's right.
Which is quite ironic. Yeah.
And that's why I mean, like, I think just the entire thing is changing. Like, I honestly think that Nintendo really was onto something with their Nintendo Directs, that you're sending the message directly to the people, and for press releases and stuff they hold separate events that are just dedicated to the press about different sales figures or projections or what have you, or like retailer incentive programs or just retailer conferences. They hold those throughout the year, and I think that's what we're going to see more and more and more of. Sony's PlayStation Experience is probably the single best event of the whole year. And what's so funny with that is Nintendo used to do that ages ago with Nintendo Space World. For those old enough to know what that is.
Yeah, I remember Space World. They had I remember the awesome reveals. Like, even with the concept, the highlight that comes to my mind is the concept Zelda trailer for the GameCube before it was the Wind Waker. I remember awing over that when they announced it on Space World. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It leads to the leeway of two other points that I want to mention, because now they're public events, not press events, and they started instead of having press only, this year was the first time they opened E3 to the public. They actually sold tickets to the public, and as you know, even though it was press technically in the previous years, a lot of people found their way, even like fans, they technically presented themselves as press, whether it's through YouTube or being popular or being a D-list celebrity on YouTube or something of that sort. So that sort of paved the way of having E3 public. Nintendo did a good job in putting like esports and having the esports focus, like with tournaments, as they did with the Smash event last year. And it even though I don't follow the scene much, it does garner the public attention instead of the press more than others. And with Sony also doing the pre and post events, also like catering to a generalized audience instead of having the press. But in the same time, what baffles me is I was expecting that they have special press timings, like the press come to certain booths in a certain time to cover the games. But apparently what I've been reading from Kotaku and other coverages, it was very, very difficult for the press to cover the games this year due to the insane amounts of crowd. You've seen the Jarrod, the picture of the Nintendo booth,
Yep.
right? It's insane.
Yep.
Like now press can't do their job.
And
So that's a double-edged sword there.
yes, it is, and I don't understand why they don't just make a Tokyo Game Show type of event. I don't understand that. If you guys don't know, TGS, they have press days where only the press are allowed in, and then it opens up to the public. And basically, the press knows that if you don't get to play your demos by the time the public days open, you're pretty much screwed, because there's just, thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And the problem with E3 was, this year anyway, from what I've heard, is exactly that, is that there really was no special or preferential treatment. Everyone was treated exactly the same. So the problem was that it was like that since day one. So good luck trying to, experience Super Mario Odyssey and the like.
Yep, with 4-hour long wait lines with certain games like Mario Odyssey and others. It's insane. Like, I don't know how press can put up with this. I'm really saddened for the press at this point. I know a lot of people are anti-press, like, why I hate mainstream media coverage, but at the same time, it's their job. It's their job for them to cover these games and give it to the give and send the message to the widespread audience. But now press technically goes under the umbrella of YouTubers and fans and insane fans who have garner a huge amount of following. It's not just press anymore.
No, and that's exactly it. And it's gonna have to change, because otherwise, really, what can you do? Short of sending like a fleet of reporters down to E3, like I don't see any way you're going to be able to do this. You imagine if you just, I don't know, something happened and you couldn't get there early. Like, let's say you had like a press conference, right? And then you had to run over to the show floor. Well, 4 hours? Like, if you have to wait 4 hours to experience something, you're not really going to cover that game, because you're going to be like, well, look, if I go to other booths, potentially, I might be able to cover 2 or 3 games in that exact same amount of time. And all that waiting is just lost time. But there's something else that has irked me a lot in recent years.
Go for it.
And that is, why don't we have E3 demos at home? I don't understand this anymore.
Yeah. Yep. It's easy for them to... I know this will... people who attend E3 would be pissed off from an idea like that, but at the same time, they could make it work. Like, they could release the demos a week after E3.
Precisely.
For example.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it worked out perfectly. Like, even now they're saying they want to garner to the public and to the fans and talk with the fans directly. So why not just release demos for people to play? There are a few instances that they did this. Specifically, again, we go to Nintendo. As soon as they showed the gameplay of Ever Oasis, they released the demo at June 20th, which is they released the demo a day or two after showing it on their mainstream. So it's cool. I like that idea. They should do more of that.
Yeah, they should do more of that. It's just, to me, it just seems very, very silly. I don't get it. Obviously, yes, I fully understand why they wouldn't do it like the same day or something, because then why the hell would you go to LA? But like
What's
you
the
said,
point, yeah?
But like you said, you do it a few weeks later. And yes, you still have the incentive because for coverage and for all the announcements, and you get hands-on before anyone else, it's still there. The incentive is still there. So anyway, I don't know. I just I think that E3 as an entity is going to continue to change, and it has to, because this whole industry is changing more and more and more.
Yeah, and it's getting more attention as the years go by.
Exactly.
Gaming is getting bigger and bigger, so they'll have to cater to a more wide audience. But at the same time, I would like for the press to have their own special treatment, not.
Yeah, and it's super easy to do. I mean, I don't understand why they didn't just follow Tokyo Game Show. Tokyo Game Show's been doing this since, my goodness, the late, well, not late, probably sometime in the 90s. I don't recall when it first started, but they've been doing it for years, is what I'm getting at.
And I think Gamescom do the same thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, well, there you go. I didn't know that, but there you go. So
the Gamescom drop is in Germany. That's going to be happening in July or August, something of that sort. So I'm sure a lot of companies are holding off their announcements to that conference as well. So, well,
yeah, and I mean, I know for a fact, Sony for sure is going to be holding, and that's why I say I think personally I was a little bit unrealistic with some of the things I thought, because I keep forgetting about the PlayStation experience. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, isn't that where they showed The Last of Us 2?
Yeah, you're right. They did show The Last of Us 2 during that. They announced it at that PlayStation experience.
So there you go. For me, I'm an idiot. I totally forgot.
Same here. That's why we mostly lost the predictions, so we'll get to that later. And I guess we're done with the general thoughts. We got all that out of the way. And let's move on to our highlights. Like I said, going to be top 5. We're going to be exchanging one by one as we did with the predictions. Do you want to start first, or should I start with mine?
No, I'll go. It's okay. Steven otherwise will be like, oh, you're just going to copy Ahmed. So, okay, so top 5, and I'm going to try and put these in order, okay?
Yep, go for it.
I am a gargantuan fan of Cuphead. I hope it turns out. I really do. But for those that don't know, they showed another little trailer. I find that incredible. It reminds me of a year one Disney animated short, but you actually interact and it's like a little shooter type of thing. And I'm happy that it's coming out. For a while there, it sure sounded like, I don't know if it was in development hell, but it sounded like, what's going on here? So very, very happy with Cuphead. Cuphead still looks excellent, and I'm really excited to play that. I will not be playing it on Xbox One. I will actually be playing that on Steam.
Yeah, same here. I was the only thing that surprised me. I thought it was going to be exclusive to Xbox One. That's the assumption that I got from last year. But apparently, it's a simultaneous release for both X1 and Steam. Yeah, that surprised me. Kind of surprised me. I don't know if they lost the exclusivity deal, or maybe they were working on it too long. They had to cut their losses and remove the timed exclusive asterisks with their game. I don't know.
So what about you?
Should I start with the best one, or start from 5 to 1? I don't know.
Start from 5 to 1, so we can keep it. Okay. We'll keep it interesting.
Okay, yeah, you're right. For me, Dragon Ball Z, the reveal in the Xbox conference, that surprised the hell out of me, because it looked absolutely amazing. It's the closest game that resembles an anime show that I've ever seen. I'm glad that they're moving away from the graphical, Namco Bandai typical, the Budokai and the other series that have been releasing for the past couple of years. I didn't like those. They seemed too freeform, seem a bit clunky with their battle system. But this is like a really true 2D fighter from the makers of Guilty Gear, and it looks like that. It's like Marvel versus Capcom with Dragon Ball Z characters. I loved it. Yeah, no, that's actually a really good pick, and that's what I'm hoping, that we don't have the same exact picks, because it's that's actually a really, really, really good one. I too was like, wow, this looks sick. It looks so close to the manga and to the cartoon or the anime rather. Overall that looked absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. My number 4, I think
I've got a couple of things here. I'm trying to. No, I think it would probably be the original Xbox games being announced for Xbox One. I was really, I don't want to say taken aback by it, but I was surprised. I was really surprised that they're actually going to allow you to use your original discs to.
That was
like I did not expect that. Now, obviously, this is going to get quite interesting here because I cannot imagine Microsoft just ignoring this moving forward, and I'm kind of curious to see like what happens next. You know what I mean? Because now they've got Xbox 360 games on there, and now that they're starting with Xbox, like original Xbox games on there, this could be really, really interesting. And I'm really hoping games like Panzer Dragoon Orta make a comeback, because that would be great to experience again via digital download. I mean, my discs are all now in storage, but it would be really, really interesting. And what I'm really curious about is how is this going to affect PC, because they're really seem to be connecting PC and Xbox into one global platform. There's no such thing as an Xbox exclusive anymore. Whatever is coming out on Xbox is also coming out on PC. Windows, what are we, 10, right? Yeah. Windows 10, I mean, it has an Xbox app and all these sorts of things. Like, I'm really curious to see how all of this sort of plays together moving forward. But I was surprised to see them make such a concerted effort to bring back backwards compatibility. And I know that this is also sort of like a kick in the face to Sony, because Sony used to be the
and
kings.
Nintendo.
Yeah, precisely. And so, I mean, I think this is them basically trying to find their footing and trying to say, like, this is something that we're going to do. It was quite evident in their conference, in Microsoft conference, that they found their stride. Like they now know where they want to go. Whether or not that's what the industry wants remains to be seen. But it's clear that PC and Xbox, at least for now, are one platform. They're no longer two distinct platforms. So it's an interesting decision, marketing move, whatever you want to call it, strategic play. And I think they've given up on trying to catch up with Sony now, and they're just like, you know what? No, we're going to do our own thing. The Xbox One is selling extremely well. It's basically the PSP versus the DS all over again, with the Xbox One being the PSP and the PS4 being the DS. So, I mean, Xbox One has sold very, very well. It's just that when you compare it to the PS4, that's where, you're just like, whoa. But it was nice to see them trying to do their own thing, and backwards compatibility is an interesting thing. And I love retro gaming, so I think that's actually a really wise move. And to the fact that the games will look a little bit better, they'll run a little bit better. They were talking about Crimson Skies. Personally, I'd love to see Knights of the Old Republic. I already mentioned Panzer Dragoon Orta, maybe the original Halo. And yes, I know that there's collections and everything else, but still, there are like Jade Empire and games like that. It could be really interesting.
The older BioWare games, I'm for me, because I haven't experienced the platform, I didn't get an Xbox, so this for me it's opening up a whole new world, and it's an incentive for me to actually get an Xbox One or an Xbox One X some point in the future, because even though backward compatibility has a niche audience compared to playing new games, it's still, I like that Microsoft is trying to maximize their residuals and getting more of the hardcore fan base to appreciate little things like that. For me, I want to play Dreamfall on the Xbox. I played The Longest Journey on iOS, but I didn't finish it, and I'm really, really curious to continue the series. It's very niche, but it's a very awesome adventure series. Underappreciated.
Yeah, indeed. So, what's your next one?
Yeah, since we're talking about Xbox, quite conveniently, Sea of Thieves is my next one. I loved the reveal trailer, or not the reveal trailer, it's the follow-up trailer to last year's. Again, saddened by 2018, but it's getting there. It seems that they want you to encompass the role of a pirate, and there are little things like actually physically carrying the chest with you to the ship instead of opening it there and leaving it at that. So they're doing unconventional things, but it's still not serious. I like that it's a bit cartoony, bit Rare-esque, the classic like Rare humor, because you could actually go in a cannon and launch yourself with the cannon. So that's kind of funny. I found that to be a very nice gameplay mechanic.
Yeah, that's one game where I'm really going to pay attention to this because it'll be on PC as well. I've barely used my Xbox One. Like, I don't even have it here anymore. And I really don't have an incentive to pick up an Xbox One X. I just, like, why? But I'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But... yeah, no, like we were chatting, for those, well, obviously that don't know, because unless you were stalking us, you wouldn't know. But Ahmed and I were chatting, we were texting each other as the Microsoft conference was going on, and it was interesting because, like, for me, this was one of these games where I'm like, there's some real potential here, and it does have the Rare charm, which is that, je ne sais quoi. It's got that something, and I'm just nervous because with Rare and Microsoft, that was a match made in garbage, and to this day I still don't understand why that happened. I don't think I ever will. I mean, yes, there was money and people were arguing that Rare's quality was starting to diminish, but as a guy that really liked Star Fox Adventures, I don't get it. Like, people like to point to that, that's why, that was one of the reasons, and and so on and so forth. It's just like a game like Sea of Thieves. I feel that everyone is trying so hard to make that next great Rare experience. And they're trying to customize it around Microsoft's ecosystem, which obviously that makes sense. Don't get me wrong. I think Sea of Thieves looks great, actually. I really enjoyed that demonstration they had. I really did. And I will buy it on PC, and I'm sure I'll be playing with you, and we'll have a good time.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I'm just... what I'm nervous about is, what if it doesn't do well? There's not many more...
chances.
Yeah, exactly. That Microsoft will give that company before they just say, you know what, we're just closing it down, and all of its properties will be given to other studios and stuff, and they'll never do anything with it. And it sucks because there's so much potential there, and it's a real shame, I find.
Yeah. To be fair, I don't think it's Rare's fault per se. It's, as you said, the match is made in garbage or in hell. It's just that I don't think Microsoft gave them enough leeway for them to spread their creativity, and especially since there are a couple of key people who have left Rare, and I think that sort of affected the way the company structured or the way the company works in a way. Like, a lot of the influencers are gone now, and they're doing their own things, whether they're doing ukulele or doing the Time Splitter series, which we haven't seen in a while. Maybe that affected things. I'm not quite sure, but at the same time, it's sometimes like I really detested Microsoft when they didn't force, but they gave Rare the job to make the Kinect and the Kinect games like as what Nintendo was doing with the Wii. I didn't like that Rare was doing that at that time period. It sort of, I think it all the creativity has been sucked out with that period, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm right there with you, man. I don't put blame on any one individual or group or anything like that. It's
a series of unfortunate events.
It is, and I ultimately think it was just a very, very, very bad match. And I'll stand by that. Like, I don't think Rare and Microsoft was a wise move.
Yep. I remember Activision was interested in buying at first, and I think Rare was telling the story of they didn't know which to go for, and ultimately Microsoft was the people to pursue. I don't know. So that was quite interesting, like Activision buying Rare.
Yeah, could you imagine?
That would have been weird. Yeah, that would have been actually beneficial, I would say.
Yes, yeah, in some
more beneficial. Yeah, because they would have spread their franchises throughout all consoles instead of keeping it on one.
Exactly, and then that could have potentially helped out. And maybe this is just us. I mean, maybe you guys listening are like, what are you guys, stupid? It's entirely possible, but I mean, you have to think that, like, for the two of us, like, I don't want to say grew up, but like we spent many years playing through these games, and just as things were like starting to get really interesting, they are taken away. Like what would have happened with a Banjo on the GameCube? Like what the hell would have happened with that? Like there's just so many different things that we'll never know, and I really want them to have a game that succeeds, because I will be so crushed if this company just ceases to exist. It would be awful.
Me too. Yeah.
Okay, so my next one is it's my number 3 surprise.
Yes.
Is, or whatever, top 5, whatever we're calling this, is actually not a game. It's not anything. It's an announcement that really surprised me, and I'm wondering if it's because of the backlash that happened just a week earlier. And that is the announcement that Pokemon, the next generation, will be coming to the Switch. Now, they didn't say the next generation, but they said that a new Pokemon, a core. Yeah.
They went out of their way to say core.
Yeah. Pokemon game is in development for the Switch, but you may have to wait over a year to get it. And obviously we know that. But why that was so surprising is because they just announced Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and I'm pretty sure, given the context of that announcement, I mean, they literally did not show anything. I'm wondering if that's because a lot of people were like, what the hell, this is stupid. But like Steven said on our micro podcast we did, it makes sense. I mean, it really does. It's a smart move, and it's a move that the Pokemon Company has done repeatedly over the last 20 years. So I don't know why people were so shocked. But for me, the shock was that they actually said something. I did not expect that at all.
Yeah, same here. And announcing it so soon after their plans with Pokken DX and Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, I don't know. That's really very unlike Nintendo. It seems like, as you've said, that it's response to the backlash. And the first thing that comes to mind is something that I've mentioned before. I said that the only reason that they didn't announce it is because even if they say something like this, just we're gonna release a core Pokemon title on the Switch, it might decrease the sales of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon and DX. But by them doing this, it contradicts what I feel, and it seems that they're very confident that Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon and the Pokemon Tournament DX will sell even if they announce it.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I think they're just like, you know what? Nah, it's gonna sell like gangbusters, man. It's gonna be so. Yeah, I was really surprised by that one.
It was a surprise indeed. Like they seem that it doesn't seem that this announcement was gonna affect the sales of Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, especially since it's catered toward the hardcore fan base, which is a big fan base. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's gonna be a niche title. So yeah. Number 3 for me. That was a very tough pick, number 3, because I know my number 2 and number 1. Number 3 I was like jumping in between a lot of things, and ultimately I'm going with Shadow of the Colossus, that announcement for the Sony, the PlayStation 4, because again, this was one of the totally out of left field announcements. I didn't expect a Studio Japan game so soon after The Last Guardian. But as soon as you see the Blue Point Games logo, which is the guys who ported Shadow of the Colossus to the PS3, it started making sense. But I love the announcement because initially, at first, when I saw it, I expected a sequel of some sort or a prequel, something that follows up Shadow of the Colossus. But after the reveal, they sort of said this is going to be a remake, which is very redundant. That's why I was having a tough time what to pick with number 3. I was going to put Shadow of the Colossus in my so-so, but the announcement alone that they're continuing with something like that has me very excited for the future of Studio Japan games.
Yeah,
I would say.
That was a really interesting one. That one, because like when I was sitting, I was watching it, and I'm like, well, it's Shadow of the Colossus for sure. And then I'm looking at the Colossi, I guess, and I'm like, well, wait a second, like, this is quite literally Shadow of the Colossus. Like I thought it was, like you said, like either a sequel or something. And it was awesome. Like as soon as I saw like the characters and stuff, and I was like, oh wow, like. But I'm like, but wait a second. I'm like, this looks like literally like the same game, and I was perplexed because I'm like, didn't we just get a remaster of like this particular game? And then after when more details were getting released, and it was like, yes, it's still based on the original game, but there's going to be all kinds of different features, and it's being built from the ground up for the PS4. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, that could potentially be interesting. I'm just really surprised that they got the funding to do this.
Yeah, I guess Bluepoint Games helped a lot. They loved what they did with the remasters so much that they said, okay, why not do something new or remake it from the ground up? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I was just really, I was really surprised. Like if we're going to say top 5 surprises, for sure that is definitely one of the surprises because I had no idea. I was like, what the hell?
Where'd this come from?
Yeah, exactly. And that actually segues into my number 2. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
So
dun, dun, dun.
my number 2 is actually the Spider-Man reveal, and not so much in a surprising way, but more in I was surprised by what we saw. Now there was a lot of QuickTime events, and I know that they did that for sort of that wow factor. I'll be very curious to see in the actual game. I'm hoping that there aren't 50 billion of those things where you're just pressing forward and that's it. The game's like playing itself. That's the only criticism that I usually give to Uncharted. I absolutely love Uncharted, but a lot of the different sequences, like these really awesome sequences, have you just pressing X and up. And like that's it, and
removes all challenge from the game.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, they make up for it in other ways, but it's just it's almost like the game is playing itself. But instead of you having a cutscene, you're literally just pressing X up or X and right and stuff like that. So I'm a little concerned with that. But I do have to give credit to Insomniac. This is without a doubt the most polished Spider-Man game ever made. Like bar none. Like this is unbelievable how smooth the character works. I love that they're incorporating some of the Arkham combat system sort of in there. You can sort of see it where enemies would flash for a second. And I honestly think it looks phenomenal. Like the game looks absolutely phenomenal. I just hope that it doesn't have too many QuickTime events.
Same here. I'm wondering, what did you think of... I'm not a Spider-Man nerd, but I know this just from reading a lot of like online articles and whatnot. But what do you think of like the reveal that Miles is in the game?
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting. Is he in the game or is he actually the character? That's what I want to know.
That would be very ambitious, actually, if they have him playable in some way, like exchanging with Peter Parker, or he's the actual Spider-Man.
Well, that's my point, because we don't know. We don't know anything right now.
That would be cool if they actually like put it in a twist. Maybe they don't reveal Spider-Man's face at all throughout the whole game, and then at the end you suddenly know that he's Miles.
That'd be awesome. No, but
if they do something like that,
like. That's the thing, and I like that they showed Mr. Negative and stuff like that, because these are characters that we have not seen in games before, and these are actually brand new characters. Okay, brand new. These are characters from like the last decade or so. So this is good stuff.
Nice, that's cool. I'm looking forward to it as well. Just as you said, hopefully they just cut down on those QuickTime events. I might give it a go because I haven't played a Spider-Man game since maybe the PS. No, I actually played the one. Which one was the one that had multiple universes and had the Noir Spider-Man, and that was very creative. I liked that one.
That was last gen, I think.
Yeah, I kind of played that for a bit. I loved the idea. So that's the last game I played, I think. My turn, right?
That's right. Number 2.
Number 2. A Way Out surprised the hell out of me from the EA press conference. Perhaps the only good thing for me to come out of that press conference was the announcement of A Way Out, because it was an indie-driven title funded by EA, and it's behind the guys behind Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. I know of the game, but I haven't played it. but they basically took that concept and put it to the next level, like with the prison break style game, and it seems that it's very story driven with a lot of gameplay variety, and the fact that they're having it co-op only, that's very, very bold in my opinion.
Very bold, but that actually looks damn good. Like I was not really looking forward to much of the EA or Ubisoft conferences and stuff, and it's one of the reasons like I haven't mentioned Mario and Rabbids and stuff like that, because it wasn't such a surprise because we actually got to see it. But that it's a way out, right?
Yeah,
that looks absolutely awesome, to be honest. It looks really, really, really good.
Ambitious.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. Yeah, it looks very ambitious, and I'm really curious to see how that actually turns out.
Yeah, hopefully it turns out to be a great game. It's nice that they're giving them time to 2018. I want to play it now, obviously, but indie studios need more time to perfect their craft, I would say.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what is my number one?
I wonder. Gee.
Exactly. So, okay, I'm going to set the stage here. So,
yeah, go for it.
I was at work, and I was watching the first 5 minutes, and like Steven was like, oh, you have to send me updates, you have to send me updates. And I just started, and I can't remember where I got to. I got to like just the beginning, maybe the first 5 minutes or so, I want to say, of the well, it's not a direct, but I think they called it a spotlight, but who cares? It's basically a Nintendo Direct. And I had to go because I had two colleagues come in, and they're all yapping, and then they wanted to have a little meeting, and I was like, oh, you people suck. So they finally left, and I was like, okay, so what am I going to do? Now, I had paused the video, and I had already closed the comments, so I was like, okay, I can still get surprised here, you know?
Yes.
Anyway, so I watched it all, and when it came to that infamous, like, literally, what was it, like 15-second, like, trailer, where it's not even a trailer, it's a teaser where you just see space, and I really find this funny because I've watched so many different reaction videos and stuff, and I wonder if I'm like sometimes the only Metroid or Zelda fan in the universe, because oftentimes when we get like teasers like this, people are lost, like they're waiting. The minute we saw space, I was freaking out. Like I was totally freaking out, and my brother walks in, he's like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, it's Metroid, man, it's coming back, baby. And you just see like the S is slowly starting to form, and I was like, this is awesome. And then you get the 4, I was like, yeah, baby. So what I'm really hoping happens right now, though, seriously, as awesome as it is to have Prime 4, we desperately need Prime 1, 2, and 3. Like, desperately.
In some fashion.
Yeah. Like, that, Nintendo, make that happen. This isn't a request. You have to do it. Because we catered to one demographic. Wii U catered to another demographic. And now it's looking like Switch is catering potentially to either a completely different demographic, or you are indeed getting some of those like hardcore gamers back. And if you are, then there is a very, very high probability that people have not played all 3 of the Prime games. So I am really like demanding they don't be stupid and just release Prime 4. If they do that, I'm worried that its sales will be affected, because there will be people that have not played the others and will be like, well, I don't know what the hell's happening in the story and stuff.
I'm going to be even more demanding. They should remaster these 3 games.
Oh, I'd love that.
I'm going to be more demanding because they released the Wii version as a Wii U download. So the only step forward is to remaster them in high quality graphics. And they have studios that they worked with the Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess. They're very talented. They know how to remaster games. So just give it to them. Let them do it.
That's a great idea. That's an absolutely great idea. I second that. Yeah, make that happen. Now, I'm going to cheat here because that was obviously my number one top thing from E3, but there was something else that happened.
Yeah, go to the second part of your story.
And it pertains to the exact same series. Now, this was our lovely friend here was texting me, and he's like, oh my God, they just announced another Metroid. I'm like, what? And I'm like, well, show me, take a picture, because like I was in a meeting at the time, and you send me like this little like video clip thing, and I was freaking out, man. I was like, it was hilarious actually. I'm surrounded by all these executives. I'm like, excuse me, I'm like, I have to step out for just a minute. My phone, I have an urgent call to take. And so I walk out, and I'm just like, sweet baby. It was so funny. So yes, I'm like a big geek here. It's really, really humorous. And then I come back into the meeting. I'm like, oh yeah, sorry. Okay, where were we? Like it was so funny. But yeah, I mean, 2D Metroid 2, The Return of Samus is coming back. It's been basically rebuilt from the ground up by the same guys that made the, I don't remember what the Castlevania game was called.
Lords of Shadow. Lords of Shadow. 1 and 2, I think.
So what are they actually called, the group?
Mercury Steam.
That's it. Mercury Steam.
Spanish room from Europe. So to the leeway here, we could talk about who won the predictions. I think that Jarrod won because he got a lot of things with Metroid accurate, even though they're two separate titles or two separate announcements. But he did say European-based studio. He did say that it's not retro developed. So he got a lot of things right with that. So that's why I'm giving him the win for the predictions that we did the last 2 weeks.
Well, Steven will disagree completely. But I do want to give kudos, since we're talking about this, I want to give kudos to Cranberry, even if I will probably mention it in the next segment. But like, this came out of nowhere. She basically said like, oh, they're going to announce a Kirby game for Switch, and it didn't look like that was going to happen when she made that prediction, because they had just announced a whole bunch of stuff for the 3DS. So that was a bold prediction, and she was right. But like I said, I'm going to talk about that in the next segment. But to wrap up with Metroid 2, it's not Metroid 2. They're just calling it Metroid: The Return of Samus, and I'm happy about that for a couple of reasons. For one thing, I'm happy because Metroid has been dormant now since I think it's 2004, I want to say. Something like that.
Yeah. The Zero Mission was the last big game they made. Other M, sorry, that was the last one. The big budget one.
Yeah, and
aside from Federation Force.
Yeah, well, Federation Force, I don't even consider a real game. So sorry. When Metroid Other M, I'm just typing it in. I want to see what.
Yeah, I can't remember its release date. Sometime in the Wii's.
Oh, it was 2010.
Yeah, and if you look back at the announcement that you guys attended in the E3, it was so well received. The announcement itself was like, everybody was like screaming their heads off, including you guys.
No, exactly. And it just, the problem was it didn't sell, and it wasn't as well received as we all would have liked. Let's put it that way. So for this, it really is the return of Samus, really. And yes, okay, fine, you have Federation Force, but I mean, my goodness, like, I don't even like to talk about that game. And it's not fair, because I didn't even play it. It's just that it didn't look at all like anything I wanted from Metroid.
It might have been a solid game because the Next Level Games are the ones who made it, but it doesn't seem like it doesn't stay true to the spirit, you would say.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not something that I had wanted after waiting, like, say, I think it was like 5 or 6 years by that point. And it's like, okay, guys, like, what the hell? And so anyways, that really was a really big deal to me. And I know there's people that are worried. They're like, oh, this developer, No,
I trust in them fully. The gameplay that they've shown in the stream, like the mixture of cinematic and gameplay, it was absolutely cool. It's like, as if they took what they've learned with Lords of Shadow and streamlined it for Metroid. I love how cinematic the game is, but in the same time, they put a lot of emphasis on gameplay and timing with the new melee attack.
Yeah, exactly.
It was so cool.
And I'm really hoping that this does very well, because I want to have Mario, Zelda, and Metroid back. Like, I it drives me crazy that these 3 games can take forever for you to get, like new iterations of them. It's nice when you can count on there being, follow-ups to these games where you don't have to wait a bloody decade to get a new one.
Yeah, especially if they put these big 3 franchises and like keep them to the original style or a different style that we're used to. But I love that the fact that they try to like mishmash between 2D and 3D with the Mario the Mario games. Sometimes they put the 2D Wii or Wii U New Super Mario Brothers series. That the revival for the DS was really, really well received. And so with Zelda, they go back to the top-down style. And for me, I know this is a very unpopular opinion, I wish they go back to Zelda 2 style. I wish they could bring a game like that in the modern era. I hope they do that someday.
That'd be really cool. That would be very, very cool.
Because I love Zelda 2. A lot of people hate on that game. It's really one of the best ones in my opinion, because it mixes a lot of challenge with gameplay. Yes, there's the vague NES type things, but for me, it lives up today better than Zelda 1. That's how I feel.
Bold words. So I'm dying here. What's your number 1?
Yeah, my number 1. Can we gush here? Because I'm gonna have a fanboy moment. The Mario Odyssey trailer, the reveal. I gushed so much on this. I made a completely different podcast dedicated to Mario Odyssey's reveal and its theme song in my channel. That's how I'm plugging my channel, by the way.
Go for it.
Yeah, it's just, I absolutely loved everything about this trailer. It's one of the best trailers I've watched in recent memory, because the way that they put the swerves in terms of gameplay, in terms of the theme and thematic motif moments, it was just amazing. From the beginning of the trailer, everybody, even including me, I think you, if you watched it, we saw this T-Rex and we're like, this is Monster Hunter. Everybody said Monster Hunter, Monster Hunter. And then the hat suddenly pans in and like, this is Mario. They did that with the last year's E3 reveal. The same thing. They put Mario in this atypical environment and suddenly Mario pops up. And it was very, very cool. I love that moment. And then when the music starts hitting, and then you listen to vocals, because there's vocals in a Mario game, vocal music. What the hell? And it's so catchy. And I'm watching the trailer multiple times because I'm just digging the music. I love what they did with it. Seems like it's like a Saturday morning cartoon opening, And the lyrics are like so in tune with what the game is. And what Mario is, referring to 1-ups, referring to gathering coins and jumping. Everything about this trailer was awesome. And then when they go with the gameplay swerve, it blew my mind. Like I was expecting, I think you were expecting as well. Like it's going to be hat-based powers, and you're going to get different hats with different powers. Then he throws the hat into a frog, and then he possesses the frog, and then he starts possessing other enemies. And they're like, this is the coolest thing ever. It's so damn creative. The Nintendo, they're brimming and oozing with creativity. I didn't expect this type of gameplay at all, and they just put it in perfectly. They don't need to show you the gameplay. It's just within the context of the trailer, you understand what the game is going to be about. That's what I loved about it. So yeah, that's it for me. It's just
that was like when we move on to our next segment there. I don't want people to get misconstrued, okay? Purposely, you and I, obviously, like, there's certain things we didn't want to, make the exact same list for the whole sort of things. So, like, with Mario was one of the biggest surprises of this year's E3, I think, for me. Was, like, if I had to say, like, the top... I knew you were going to talk about it, which is why I didn't want to put it in my list. But truly, even more than Metroid, Mario Odyssey, it's bold, man. Like, they are trying to do a lot of different things here. And I am really curious to see how this is all going to come together, like as one unified game. There are so many things. I mean, you can fast travel in a Mario game now. Like, what?
Yeah. And they don't try to put you back to the hub level when you get a moon or get a star. That's right. So that's it. It's seamless, the exploration.
That's it. And just that, exploration. Mario it's one of these games where it depends on how you look at it. Super Mario World was the last time where, like, consciously I'm thinking here, right? Where I explored every nook and cranny for those damn keys, trying to figure out how to unlock new areas. And as I was watching this, that's what kept coming back into my mind was that, oh man, like, we can explore like everywhere. Like, there's all these secrets all over the place, and like, this is awesome. And the fact with like the power-up system being the way it is, where you sort of like possess different objects and different characters and different enemies and so on. And just the little touches where, like, a Goomba, for God's sakes, you possess one, he gets a little mustache and he's got his cap. That's Nintendo. You know, like, to me, that's it. You know, it's just like when I talk about Dragon Quest, people are like, what is the appeal? Like, what do you like about Dragon Quest? And, you know, outside the main things of storylines and gameplay, sticking true to its roots, it's stuff like that. It's the goofy, charming, whatever it is that it has is what I love. I mean, really, a slime is nothing more than this gelatinous teardrop with a smiley face and two eyes. And that's Dragon Quest. It really is. Like, it's this silly, ridiculous thing. Yeah. And Mario is exactly like that. Nintendo is exactly like that. Like, this is a character that is, you know, almost as old as gaming itself. And it blows my mind how they're always able to come up with these fun, creative ways of highlighting this particular character in this particular franchise. And yeah, you mentioned the music and just everything. I was so impressed by this. If I had to vote for Game of the Year, that would be my Game of the Year, hands down. And to be fair, the possession mechanic, or they call it the capture mechanic, it's nothing new. A few games did this before, but I don't think any of the, for example, I think Geist was one of the oldest games that started this possession mechanic. Mind Jack was one of the worst games ever, and the idea itself is so creative, but nobody managed to optimize it. And it looks like Nintendo is going to be the first company to do so, and we might see more possession-based games after. I feel. Yeah, and I said Game of the Year. I didn't mean Game of the Year. I meant Game of the Show. This was hands down my Game of the Show. I can't say it's Game of the Year until I play the damn thing. Same here. Everything about the reveal trailer, and then when they went after that with gameplay and started showing the little details, as you've mentioned. Even like the fact that the suits that he wears are a tribute to a lot of the old suits that we see Mario in, like the golf suit, and he is a referee and the explorer and the cook. It's just so cool. I love the little things that they do, even if it's for the hardcore fan base, and they bring back Pauline out of nowhere. I like that. That's really cool stuff. I find it to be amazing. One of my favorite is where you see Mario like running around all over the place, and then there's like a little pipe, and he goes into the pipe and comes out as 2D Mario, and he's running around like this little like sort of cylindrical little like, that's awesome, man. And I just don't know how the hell Nintendo does this. They always seem to do this, and it's brilliant. Yeah, it's just a testament to the minds that they're making that are making the game, even though a lot of these seniors are now like overseeing more, like Miyamoto, for example, they do trust the younger staff, and they hone their skills to make something creative and give them this creative space to make a game. It's just I was blown away by the whole reveal, in my opinion. Well, me too. I'm right there with you, and I'm very curious to hear what other people have to say. It's going to be interesting to see what some of the comments are like. People telling us we're crazy. As you said, a lot of people, even when I'm talking with my friends, they do tell me, like, what do you see in Mario? It's the same. They have this this perception that it's the same game. It's just jumping and stomping over the Goombas and getting coins. There's nothing new about it. But to that I say, it's just the charm. It's these small things and the way that they always recreate them and refresh them for newer generations. Even when I sent them the trailer over WhatsApp, everybody was like, wow, this is so creative. I have a friend who doesn't play these Nintendo-based games, but he's now interested in a Switch because
he saw Breath of the Wild and he saw Mario. He's like, what are these games? I'm missing out on something. I want to play these games again and revive what he was playing in his childhood. So good stuff.
Yes, sir. So let's move on to something else.
Yeah. And our next big topic, we finished this highlights, obviously. Now we're going to talk about the so-sos, and here's a lot of things that we alluded to, Jarrod and I, that maybe they may be great, but at the same time they have a double-edged sword to them. First off, we're going to address the elephant in the room, the Xbox One X reveal. Now that has a lot of good implications and has a lot of bad stuff, in my opinion. Like it's really, really divided. Like on one hand, I see where they're going with this. They're catering to more being a competitor to the PC world, not the console world. Like it's if you want the best games, if you want the most optimized games on a 4K TV, and if you have 4K technology, the Xbox One X is for you. It's very similar to what the PlayStation Pro is doing. But at the same time, there are a lot of things that baffled me. Maybe the most major one was that they're allowing only 30 games to be cross-compatible, in the sense that if you have the game on Xbox One, you have the Xbox One X version automatically, but that doesn't apply for old games. Only 30 titles, which really baffled me. So they're going to charge for some of the X upgrades. What do you think, Jarrod?
No, exactly. And just so everybody knows, we're not going to have lists or anything like that. We're just going to talk about stuff. Yeah, the Xbox brand, I've mentioned this before, that I don't know what the hell happened. And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's because like I was playing, Nintendo hardware and I was playing Sony hardware prior to Xbox hardware, but I don't know what the hell happened. I had some good times with the Xbox One when it first came out, and then it just died.
Fizzled.
Yeah, like totally died. And I'm going to be really honest with you guys. I have zero interest in the Xbox One X whatsoever. Like I just don't care. So this is where I gave you points, because you were saying that it's basically going to come out and it's going to be underwhelming, and I really think it was. I truly think the reveal just was not revealing. The Microsoft's whole press conference, the way they were like, Xbox, it wasn't exclusive.
Exclusive.
Yeah, well, my ass exclusive. It's like the vast majority of the games were launch exclusives, and when we dug a little deeper into that, it basically means that they're timed exclusives. Yes, there were some that are console exclusives, but when they were showing the games on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, they kept saying like, enhanced Xbox One X features. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah, they didn't really like address what's going to happen with what does enhance entail.
Exactly. And to me, it's like, okay, guys, you're asking $500 for people to upgrade, quote unquote. And that's why my prediction of saying like, there will be in exclusive games like announced, I still stand by that there has to be. There has to be.
At some point.
Yeah.
At some point. I would say maybe in 2 years, they're going to start doing that and transitioning in that way.
I think they don't have a choice. It's like, because it's just like the Pro. The Pro is not selling as well as the main console. And people are like, well, why? Well, I'll tell you why. What is the real incentive? Truly, like they're not marketing. Like I just don't see any company marketing this correctly.
Yep, it's just like you said. It's there are premium experiences, and I don't know. I don't know what their expectations are for the Pro and the Xbox One X, but they shouldn't have high expectations. They should have like high expectations in the long run. Something like maybe it'll start selling in 2 years' time, when the adoption rate for 4K TVs are more, and when developers are starting to be limited by the scope of the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox and want to make some more ambitious titles. That's where the transition is going to happen. But for now, it's like they're selling a beta console to people who want the PC experience, and they want to pay cheaper for it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm still in the air here. Like, I still really, truly don't understand what the hell they're doing. I would abolish the old model and you only have the new model. But obviously, in that could work for the PS4 Pro, but that's because it's $100 cheaper or whatever it is. But there's no way that they'd be able to do that with the Xbox One. But anyways, overall, I don't know. And your whole thing about charging, I noticed that right away. We were texting each other, and right away we both said the same thing. Where we're like, 30 games? Well, what about everything else? You know? And it's like, yeah, well, exactly. That's a very good question. What about everything else? So you're going to charge us for the upgrade. Great. And how much is that?
I wonder.
Exactly.
It seems like it's developer based. That's what they're insinuating.
Yeah, that's it.
But how much would you pay for an upgrade, for a 4K upgrade, if you had the 4K technology? I don't think I would pay more than $5, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, let's see.
Knowing Microsoft, it doesn't seem it's going to be like a $5 charge for it. It's going to be more.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be more. I'm sure it's going to be like $20 or something like that. And
that'll be bad. They're going to be dividing their own audience. That's something that PlayStation 4, to be fair, they did a really good job in not doing. They forced all developers to say that you have to make it work for the PS4, and then you put the Pro patch for free. So that's a smart move from Sony's end, and it's going to help them in the long run when they're competing with the Xbox One X. So
yeah, honestly, I think I think we're going to see the next gen. I think that's what's going to happen here. I think from Sony's perspective, I think they're going to look at the sales data and they're going to realize that, you know, this isn't working as we originally thought it would.
Yes.
And I think they're just going to be like, okay, you know what? If people are buying your regular version 10 times more than they are your professional version, like, you got to really start to wonder here, you know, is it worth it?
Yeah. And I think the shift or the exclusive games is going to start when the original versions of these games, like the 1080p, the Xbox One S version, for example, the developers stop optimizing this to work well. Like, one example is obviously the reveal of Anthem, and everybody was like blowing their heads off how awesome it looks. And me too, admittedly, it looks like an amazing game. But we talked about this, Jarrod, privately. How optimized is this game going to be for the original Xbox One, for the original PS4? Is it going to run like ass? And if it does that, that defeats the purpose of having a Xbox One family and a PlayStation 4 family as they're marketing it.
No, exactly. That's exactly it. And that's what I'm ultimately really afraid of. I mean, we experienced this with Nintendo with the new 3DS. When just go ahead and play Hyrule Warriors on an original.
No way.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my big fear, is that that's exactly what will eventually happen. And I think that's stupid. I really do. I think at that point, it's like, look, if your console's already like 5 years old, then move on. You know what I mean? Like, just move on. And that's it. Like, you release your next platform and away you go. Like, it's stupid. Technology changes so much that, like, I just think this is a really stupid thing to do, because you can't continue to iterate your consoles every year. Like, so like at this year's PlayStation experience, should we expect the PlayStation Pro? and that's
I don't know,
and that's my point. Like, it seems stupid. It seems foolish, because you're basically dividing your own user base. My cat is saying hello. And I don't know. I really think this was a very foolish move on both companies' parts. I really don't understand what they're trying to do here. I would have just waited and released, like in Sony's case, released the PlayStation 5. I would have announced the PS5 like next year, and that's that. You know, and then it would have come out the following year. There, done.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't mind, for me, that the cycles between generations to be lessened. Or at first we were waiting, like you would say, from 5 to 6 years between each console generations. I understand now that this time should be less, because technology is moving forward so fast, and the PC is just so far ahead, that I understand why they would release a console every 3 years, but not in this fashion.
No, that's it, because it's just not enough. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. So what else?
What else do we have in the so-so? For me, the reveal of Beyond Good and Evil 2, a lot of people love that reveal, for me included. I like that this thing exists now and it's out in the open, but I don't know where they're going with it. It seems like a very vague reveal. I don't know what they're trying to do with it. Is community based? It seems like they want the help of like fans to develop the game, something like that. I'm not quite sure, and I can't wrap my head around it yet. They said register to the site called Space Monkey Program, something of that sort. I still don't understand where they're going with this, and also I'm sure that we're still years away from this game. It's gonna be released like with Final Fantasy VII Remake and Kingdom Hearts 3. It's just too far off.
Yeah, I'm right there. The most touching thing was seeing Michelle come on board.
Yeah,
and
it's a nice feel-good moment. I agree with that. Yeah, it's a nice moment.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, in terms of the actual game, there is no game. Let's not kid ourselves. They had a reveal trailer, and that's that. So, I mean, it's like a bittersweet thing. It's great to see, but again, it's one of these things like how many people actually played Beyond Good and Evil?
The first one.
You know? Yeah. And that's why, like, it's one of these things yet again where it's like I think it would be very important to completely rebuild that game from the ground up using modern day technology, and maybe take a look and see if people are actually interested.
Yeah, it got a nice response, so yeah, the interest rate seems to be high, but in the same time it might be a Fox response just because people want surprises.
No, that's exactly it, and that's why I don't judge anything off that kind of stuff. It's like Shenmue 3. For all the talk and all the hype and all the everything else, I could easily see that game not selling well.
Yep.
And
even Bloodstained, to be fair, even though you're hyped for it, I'm still cautiously optimistic.
Oh, no, me too. Are you kidding? For sure. Kickstarter games, like I stopped kickstarting everything now pretty much because it's like, okay, the track record here is not exactly great. And
Agreed.
I want another Castlevania game, and I'm gonna leave. Well, I really don't have many things that were so-so, as we say. I mean, for me, the so-so stuff was pretty much everything. That's the honest truth. I honestly thought, like, as an entire conference, everything was so-so. All of the reveals. Microsoft had a ton of reveals. On my notes here, I have 2 pages worth of reveals, and the vast majority of them I couldn't care less about. Like, I'm like, yeah, okay, well, whatever. I mean, there's some cool stuff. Metro Exodus looked good, but again, I'll play that on PC if I want to. Forza 7, I don't even care anymore about the Forza series. There was that one cool game that looked pretty neat, The Last Night. It's almost like a noir pixel game.
Love that. Yeah, that was the only one that from the Microsoft that I said, okay, this was a very interesting, ambitious. It seemed nice. And Ori 2 as well. Exactly. I like that they focused on some indie titles, but their big AAA reveals weren't as amazing that I expected to be in my head. Especially State of Decay 2 from their end. Like, what's this?
Yep.
Seems very
generic,
cheap and generic. I didn't find anything interesting with that one.
And I'm going to be the real douchebag here, and I'm going to say that Anthem, while it looked like unbelievable production values and all of that, I gotta admit that I was like tremendously disappointed in the sense that it feels like Destiny meets Overwatch, and there we go. And I'm like, damn it, man. Like I wanted something else, I guess. Like I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel that once something does really, really well, everybody jumps on it, and we're all like, oh my god, we gotta make something similar to that, and that's a little unfortunate.
Even with how ambitious they were, again, this is like a double-edged sword so point. They did a lot of VR reveals from PlayStation's end, and I like that, but in the same time, like, the only one that looked interesting was Moss, that mouse type game. Everything else seemed rushed. I don't know. Even that Final Fantasy 15 fishing thing that came out of nowhere. I don't know, man. I like that they're supporting the platform. It's good. They need to. It's definitely one of their highlights. But again, I'm still not convinced with the VR technology, and the games themselves don't seem like, even with stuff that Bethesda said, like Skyrim VR and Doom VR. I'm like, okay, everything is becoming VR. They're not doing any creative ideas except for that Moss game that I talked about.
No, exactly. Like, I'm just like, okay, whatever. I really, I at first I was really regretting, potentially not buying a VR headset, but now I think I made the right move.
I have it as a gift, but I haven't opened it as of now.
Well, there you go.
It's just collecting dust the under my PlayStation 4 Pro. So, yeah, I just want to have. I know that I'm gonna like what I see, but it's not gonna make me tune in, if you know what I mean. I'm not gonna be playing it on a daily basis. Yeah. So yeah. I guess that's it with the so-so. With the bad is we have maybe because we talked about a lot of the bad stuff in the so-so. We have maybe not a lot of bad things to cover. For me, the two big points that remain is how cringe heavy some of the conferences were. And there's a lot of you guys can go and look at the compilations of EA trying to be hip and cool with their YouTubers and their esports. Like the only reveal that was cool about the EA one was Star Wars Battlefront 2. They got, I think, one of the actresses as the presenter, and she was really good. Everybody else was like, they were very cringe heavy. Even the Bethesda stuff and the PC stuff, a lot of cringe heavy moments in the E3. The other thing we talked about also, the bad, is everything is 2018. We're going to be waiting a long time for these games to come. I understand the PR of Sony, again, not putting certain release dates, but at the same time, there's not a lot of things to wrap our head around the 2017. Even if there were, from Sony and Microsoft's end, they didn't highlight them as much as I wanted them to highlight them. And finally, this is something I don't want to, because I think we're running over time here. I don't want to talk about this much. I'll leave it to the next podcast. But I didn't like how Kojima Productions was just there in the Sony booth and selling merch for Death Stranding. And I'm going to talk about this in detail later. And we talk because there's a lot of things I don't want to talk about regarding Death Stranding and Kojima Productions. But it seemed very cheap for a company that didn't show any gameplay and showed 2 teaser trailers, and they're depending on the legacy of Kojima himself to sell merch and sell shirts and sell the accessory that one of the main characters of the trailer was wearing. I found that to be very, like, a lot of fans got exploited, and they sold a lot of merch from that stand. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter like, hey, we bought the Kojima Productions for our friends, and I was like, you guys are falling for a big trap here.
Yeah, I want to actually do. I think next week we might, because we don't have to wait weeks. We could do this.
We could do this next week.
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
Want.
Because I think I'd like to really talk more about that, because that whole practice is like unbelievably shady to me, and I'm really not a fan of that. I also wanted to mention that, and it's not really bad per se, but so was I liked. Like, at Sony's conference, we got Uncharted, Horizon, Days Gone, and some of these other things. And they were good reveals, but they're all updates, like you said. And that's one of the things that I agree with you, like, really, that having everything in 2018, just like, what? Like, I was really hoping to see at least, so like Days Gone. It would have been great to have something, say, like Holiday 2017 or, Winter 2017 or just something like that. Because the way it is now, it's like, well, guys, like, what the hell? And some of the bigger announcements for me weren't even at the conference. Like Ni no Kuni coming out.
Ni no Kuni, yeah.
That was friggin' awesome. And the new trailer looked wicked. And
and it should have been in the conference. That's what I'm trying to insinuate here. Why didn't they put that?
Exactly.
Why did they focus on that and just put the 2018 reveal? Maybe, for example, the God of War, have it with a post show or have it in the stream. Why didn't they put Ni no Kuni 2? It's a cool game that's third party and exclusive, and it's coming to your console this year. It seemed a bit offensive to me not to include it in the conference.
Yeah, I truly don't understand. I really, really don't understand. And for me, the final really, bad thing is that Ahmed was wrong about DQ. And I say that because I had that as one of my predictions as well, that Dragon Quest would have made, some sort of an appearance. And I am sad by that. I mean, it's totally expected. It really is.
Yes.
But it's sad because in a few more weeks, well, okay, that's exaggerating. It's still a month and 2 weeks away, but whatever. In like 6 weeks from now, probably one of my game of the years will be released. A game that I've been looking forward to for a very long time. The first console Dragon Quest since, well, I mean, people could argue, well, Dragon Quest X, but Dragon Quest X, I consider it's like really its own beast. Since Dragon Quest VIII, this is the first time we get a single player console Dragon Quest game. And I was like, man, even if you announce it for a release date of nothing, like don't put a release date, it's so far out, it still would have just been so cool to know, like, for sure that it's coming. And I mean, we do know that it's coming.
It's gonna come. They're not gonna ignore it.
No, exactly. It's just that it means that you're looking at like 2019
or the end of 2018. Yeah,
exactly. Like just not anytime soon, which is, I don't know. I was just let down by that. I was really, really hoping that we'd get some kind of an announcement.
Yeah. It looks like Square Enix focus for this E3 was directed toward the Stormblood expansion for Final Fantasy XIV and the Dissidia game that looks absolutely amazing. So I guess they're focusing on those first, and then they're going to deal with Dragon Quest later. And from Nintendo's end, the 3DS version, I understand that they don't want to cram in too many RPGs. They have Ever Oasis. They have the Mario and Luigi remake, which has been really revealed as well. A nice little bit of surprise here for 3DS support. Also, the fact that Atlus is making more 3DS games, they're Radiant Historia. So there are a lot of RPGs crammed into the 3DS, and maybe Dragon Quest would be lost in the shuffle. I want it to have like its own attention, even if it comes out at the end of the life cycle of the 3DS, it'll be the swan song. So people will,
Oh, I'm okay with that, man.
Pick it up.
Honestly, I'm perfectly okay with that. It's just, it's one of these things, like if Metroid wasn't announced, that would have been one of my things.
That would have been it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, my man, I think we're good, and we should meet up next week, because I love doing these, and they're people seem to really enjoy them. It seems to resonate well with the fan base. So that's it. So thank you all for watching or listening, and as always, I'm going to let Ahmed say the closing comments.
Again, thanks everybody. We went a bit of overtime, but there was a lot to cover in E3. And again, look forward to next week. I think we're going to go into the conspiracy theory or devil's advocate of Konami and Kojima and what's going on behind the scenes. So look forward to that.
Well, take care, everybody. Have a great week.